There is a quiet intelligence moving through your life right now, even if your mind insists on calling this moment empty or unfinished. There is an order beneath the apparent disorder, a rhythm beneath the noise, a loving orchestration beneath what you have named delay. When you slow your breath and soften your resistance, you may begin to sense that the same presence that set the stars in motion and taught the tides when to rise and fall is breathing you forward, one invisible step at a time. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared by a wisdom far greater than the anxious voice that keeps checking the clock. So much of human suffering comes from arguing with time, from demanding answers before the soil has warmed, from pulling at the stem to see if the flower is ready. Yet nothing in nature ever apologizes for unfolding at its own pace. The oak does not envy the rose for blooming quickly, and the moon does not rush itself to fullness. Each knows its place in the divine schedule. When you align with this truth, impatience begins to dissolve, and you realize that what you called waiting was actually becoming. There is a deep spiritual misunderstanding that whispers, if it hasn't happened yet, it never will. This voice belongs to the ego, not the soul. The ego is obsessed with control, deadlines, and outcomes. It lives in a constant state of comparison, measuring your life against imagined timelines and borrowed expectations. The soul, however, knows something profoundly different. The soul knows that time is not an enemy but a collaborator. The soul understands that what arrives too early can wound you just as deeply as what never arrives at all. You may look back and see moments you once prayed for that did not manifest, and with hindsight, you can now see the mercy hidden in the delay. Perhaps you were spared a relationship that would have shrunk your spirit, or an opportunity that would have fed your ego but starved your peace. What felt like rejection was protection wearing a disguise. What felt like silence was guidance, whispering, "Not yet. There is more for you to learn, more strength to grow, more alignment to find." Trusting God's timing does not mean sitting still in fear or disengaging from life. It means acting from faith rather than force. It means taking inspired steps without demanding guarantees. It means allowing your efforts to be fueled by love rather than anxiety. When you move from this place, your actions become harmonious instead of frantic, purposeful instead of pressured. You begin to feel the difference between pushing against life and being carried by it. The mind wants certainty, but the soul thrives on trust. The mind asks, when will it happen? How will it happen? Why hasn't it happened yet? The soul simply says, I know I am guided. When you learn to listen to that quieter voice, the one that speaks in calm assurance rather than urgent demands, you begin to rest in the understanding that you are never off course. Even your detours are part of the map. Consider how often your greatest growth came during periods you once labeled as stagnant. Those seasons of confusion, loneliness, or waiting were not empty spaces. They were sacred classrooms. They taught you patience, humility, compassion, and resilience. They stripped away illusions and revealed inner resources you didn't know you possessed. If everything you wanted had arrived immediately, you might never have discovered who you truly are beneath the wanting. There is a profound freedom that comes when you stop asking life to match your timetable and start aligning yourself with life's intelligence. This is not resignation, it is reverence. It is the recognition that the universe does not operate randomly or cruelly, but with exquisite precision. Every encounter, every pause, every apparent setback is placed exactly where it needs to be to serve your awakening. When you feel the ache of delay, notice what the ache is really asking of you. Often it is inviting you inward. It is asking you to heal an old wound, release a limiting belief, or forgive a story you have been carrying for far too long. Healing begins within, and until the inner work is honored, the outer manifestation remains on hold, not as punishment, but as protection. You are not meant to arrive at your destination exhausted, bitter, or disconnected from yourself. You are meant to arrive awake. God's timing ensures that when the door finally opens, you are ready to walk through it with clarity and grace. Readiness is not about perfection. It is about alignment. It is about becoming the version of yourself who can receive without fear and hold blessings without shrinking. The ego tells you that your worth is measured by speed, by milestones, by how quickly you can prove yourself. The soul knows that you are already enough, exactly as you are, in this very moment. You do not earn divine support by rushing. You receive it by remembering who you are, a living expression of the same creative force that moves galaxies and grows forests. When you release the need to control the outcome, something remarkable happens. Your nervous system softens, your heart opens. You begin to notice small miracles you were too tense to see before. Synchronicities appear. Conversations land differently. Opportunities arise not through force, but through flow. This is the quiet magic of alignment, the gentle evidence that you are being guided even when you cannot see the full picture. Waiting, when infused with trust, becomes a form of prayer. It becomes an active state of listening rather than passive endurance. In this space, you learn to ask better questions. Not why is this happening to me, but what is this teaching me? Not when will it be over, but who am I becoming through this? These questions open doors the ego could never unlock. There are no justified resentments in the eyes of the soul, only invitations to forgive and grow. When you cling to resentment about timing, resentment toward people, circumstances, or even God, you anchor yourself to the past. Forgiveness loosens that grip. It frees your energy to move forward unburdened. Forgiveness is not approval of what happened. It is a declaration that you choose peace over prolonged suffering. Living in the now does not mean abandoning your dreams. It means trusting that the now is the doorway through which every dream must pass. The present moment is where alignment happens, where guidance is received, where peace is available. When you stop postponing your happiness until some future event arrives, you discover that joy has been quietly waiting for you all along. The soul always knows. It knows when to act and when to rest, when to speak and when to be silent, when to hold on and when to let go. Learning to trust God's timing is really learning to trust this inner knowing. It is learning to recognize that the same wisdom guiding the universe is guiding you, not as an abstract concept, but as a living, breathing presence within. There is nothing wrong with desire. Desire is the soul's way of expanding itself through experience. But when desire turns into desperation, it disconnects you from trust. Gently notice when you are grasping, when you are tightening around an outcome. In those moments, return to gratitude. Gratitude is the language of alignment. It tells the universe, I trust what is unfolding, even if I do not yet understand it. You are being shaped right now in ways that will make sense later. The delays are refining your character. The pauses are deepening your faith. The unanswered questions are strengthening your intuition. When the moment arrives, and it will, you will look back and see that nothing was wasted. Every step, every stumble, every stillness had a purpose. God's timing is always perfect because it is rooted in love, not urgency. Love does not rush. Love prepares. Love ensures that when something enters your life, it supports your growth rather than sabotaging it. Trusting this timing is an act of spiritual maturity. It is the recognition that you are part of something vast, intelligent, and benevolent. You are not behind. You are right on time for the lesson your soul chose to learn. You are right on time for the strength you are building. You are right on time for the awakening that is quietly unfolding within you. And when the blessings you have been praying for finally arrive, you will understand that they came not a moment too late, but precisely when you were ready to receive them fully. Until then, breathe, soften, stay present. Let go of the illusion that you must hurry to be worthy. Trust that you are being guided, protected, shaped, and prepared. In the stillness of this moment, remember God is in control, and you are held in perfect timing. And as you remain with this awareness, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift inside you. The urgency that once tightened your chest starts to loosen, replaced by a quiet confidence that does not need evidence to exist. This confidence does not shout, it whispers. It does not demand, it allows. It arises when you finally realize that life is not something happening to you, but something unfolding through you. You are not standing outside the river of existence, waiting for permission to enter. You are already in the current, already being carried, already moving toward what serves your highest becoming. There is a profound peace that arrives when you stop interpreting uncertainty as danger. The mind has been trained to believe that not knowing is a threat, but the soul understands that not knowing is sacred space. It is the womb of creation, the fertile darkness, where new possibilities gather strength before taking form. When you can sit comfortably in that space without rushing to label it or escape it, you align yourself with the same creative intelligence that formed everything that ever was. In this alignment, you begin to notice that guidance rarely arrives as a loud command or a dramatic sign. More often, it comes as a gentle nudge, a subtle resonance, a quiet feeling of rightness that cannot be explained but can be trusted. It may show up as a closed door that redirects you, a delay that saves you, or an unexpected invitation that stretches you beyond your comfort zone. None of it is accidental. Each moment is part of a conversation between your soul and the infinite. When you truly trust God's timing, you stop needing life to prove itself to you. You no longer require constant reassurance that you are on the right path. You feel it in your body, in the way your breath deepens when you choose patience, in the way your heart softens when you choose faith over fear. This trust becomes a way of being, not something you turn on and off depending on circumstances. And in this way of being, you discover a remarkable truth. Your peace is not postponed. It is available now. It does not depend on the arrival of a person, an outcome, or a future version of yourself. Peace arises the moment you stop arguing with what is and start cooperating with what is unfolding. This cooperation does not mean passive acceptance of suffering. It means conscious participation in your own evolution. You begin to see that every experience, pleasant or painful, has been shaping you for a deeper purpose. Even the moments that broke you open were not meant to destroy you, but to empty you of illusions that no longer fit who you are becoming. In the emptiness they left behind, something truer is emerging, a self that is less reactive, less attached, less afraid to trust life. There is a quiet courage in surrender that the ego can never understand. It takes strength to stop forcing outcomes, to release the illusion that you must micromanage your destiny to be safe. When you surrender, you are not giving up your power. You are aligning it with a greater source. You are allowing your will to be guided by wisdom rather than fear. As this alignment deepens, your perception of time itself begins to change. The future loses its grip on you. The past loosens its hold. You find yourself more fully present, more responsive than reactive, more curious than anxious. You start to live from the inside out, letting your inner state shape your outer experience rather than the other way around. And from this place, gratitude becomes effortless, not because everything is perfect, but because you recognize the perfection in the process. You become grateful not only for what has arrived, but for what is still unfolding. You learn to honor the pause as much as the progress, the becoming as much as the arrival. Trusting God's timing ultimately brings you home to yourself. It reminds you that you are not a fragment struggling to survive in a chaotic world, but a conscious expression of a loving intelligence that knows exactly what it is doing. You are not waiting for life to begin. Life is happening now, through every breath, every insight, every moment you choose, trust over tension. And so you continue forward, not with blind hope, but with grounded faith. Not with frantic effort, but with inspired action. You move gently, deliberately, and with an inner steadiness that does not depend on external validation. You allow life to meet you where you are, knowing that where you are is precisely where you need to be. In this knowing, you rest. And in resting, you remember. You remember that you have always been guided. You remember that you have always been held. You remember that nothing essential has ever been missing. And with this remembrance, you step into the next moment, not rushed, not afraid, but deeply aligned with the quiet, perfect timing of the divine. And as this remembrance settles more deeply into you, you may notice a gentler way of moving through the world emerging on its own. You stop bracing yourself against life as if something is about to go wrong. The constant inner vigilance softens. You realize how much energy was once spent anticipating loss, preparing defenses, rehearsing disappointment. When that vigilance dissolves, a great reservoir of vitality is released. That energy was always meant for living, for creating, for loving, not for guarding against imagined futures. There is a sacred innocence that returns when trust replaces control. You begin to meet each day with curiosity rather than expectation. Instead of asking, will today give me what I want, you find yourself asking, what is today here to show me? This subtle shift transforms ordinary moments into quiet revelations. A conversation becomes a mirror. A delay becomes a teacher. Even silence becomes meaningful, not as absence, but as presence waiting to be felt. You start to recognize that the divine does not rush because it sees the whole picture at once. What you experience as waiting is simply one thread being woven into a much larger design. From where you stand, you see only a small portion of the tapestry, and it can look unfinished, even chaotic. But step back far enough, and every color, every pause, every apparent misstep belongs exactly where it is. Trust grows when you accept that you do not need to see the entire design to be supported by it. In this space of acceptance, the need to compare your journey to anyone else's quietly fades. You see that no two paths are meant to look alike, because no two souls came here to learn the same lessons in the same way. Another person's timing has nothing to say about yours. Their chapter is not your measure. When comparison dissolves, envy loses its fuel, and what remains is respect for the uniqueness of every unfolding life, including your own. There is also a deeper compassion that arises, not only for others, but for yourself. You begin to forgive the moments when you doubted, when you rushed, when you tried to force what was not yet ready. You see those moments not as failures, but as part of your education in trust. Growth is rarely elegant while it is happening. It becomes graceful only in hindsight. As you live from this awareness, your relationship with effort changes. You still act, you still choose, you still participate fully in your life, but the frantic edge is gone. Action becomes a response to inner clarity rather than outer pressure. You do what feels aligned, and you release the rest. You understand that your responsibility is to show up with sincerity, not to dictate the outcome. There is a quiet joy in this way of living. It is not the loud excitement of instant gratification, but a steady contentment rooted in faith. You feel accompanied, even in solitude. You feel guided, even in uncertainty. This joy does not depend on circumstances lining up. It flows from the knowing that whatever comes will be met with inner resources you can trust. And perhaps the most profound realization of all begins to dawn on you now. The timing you have been waiting for is not just about external events. It is also about the timing of your own awakening. Certain truths could not be received until you were ready to hear them. Certain doors could not open until you were willing to walk through them without fear. The delay was not outside of you, it was within, gently preparing your awareness to expand. When this realization lands, gratitude deepens even further. You feel thankful not only for what is coming, but for who you are becoming in the meantime. You see that the waiting has shaped your character, refined your values, and softened your heart. It has taught you how to listen more carefully, how to trust more deeply, how to rest in uncertainty without losing yourself. So you continue forward now with a different quality of presence. You are less hurried, more attentive, less attached, more devoted. You move with a quiet reverence for the unfolding of your life, knowing that each step is guided by an intelligence that cannot fail. And in this knowing, you no longer ask time to hurry. You walk with it, trusting that every moment is arriving exactly when it should. And in this unhurried walking with time, you begin to feel a deeper intimacy with life itself. Moments no longer rush past you unnoticed. They seem to meet you as if they have been waiting for your full attention. You hear more. You feel more. Even the smallest details, a change in light, a breath of wind, the pause between words carry a quiet significance. Life stops shouting for your awareness because you are finally listening. There is a humility that comes with this listening, a gentle recognition that you do not have to be the author of every chapter to be an essential part of the story. You discover that guidance often reveals itself after you stop insisting on having the final say. The need to be right softens. The need to be certain loosens. What takes its place is a deep respect for the mystery that has always known how to move you forward. In this state, fear loses its authority. It may still visit, but it no longer governs. You see fear for what it is, a habit of the mind trained to protect you by predicting danger. You thank it for its concern, and then you return to trust. You return to the felt sense that you are supported by something vast and benevolent, something that does not abandon its creation halfway through the journey. And so, when obstacles appear, you meet them differently now. You no longer assume they are signs of failure. You pause and ask what refinement is being asked of you. Sometimes the obstacle is there to slow you down. Sometimes it is there to redirect you. Sometimes it is simply there to strengthen a quality within you that will soon be needed. Resistance turns into inquiry, and inquiry opens doors fear could never see. Your inner dialogue begins to change as well. The harsh voice that once criticized your pace softens into encouragement. You stop calling yourself behind, late, or incomplete. You begin to speak to yourself as life itself speaks to you, with patience, with faith, with an unwavering belief in your unfolding. This inner kindness becomes a powerful force. It allows you to grow without violence, to evolve without self-betrayal. As this kindness deepens, you notice something remarkable. You are no longer waiting for permission to be at peace. You stop postponing joy until circumstances improve. You allow moments of contentment to exist alongside uncertainty. You learn that peace is not the absence of questions, but the presence of trust while the questions remain unanswered. There is also a new relationship forming with silence. Silence no longer feels empty or awkward, it feels alive. In silence, you sense guidance rearranging itself within you. Answers arrive not as words, but as clarity. Decisions feel simpler, not because life is less complex, but because you are less divided within yourself. When inner conflict resolves, outer confusion begins to dissolve on its own. You start to understand that faith is not a belief you hold in your mind, it is a posture you hold in your being. It is the way you meet each moment without armor. It is the willingness to stay open even when outcomes are unknown. This faith does not make you passive, it makes you resilient. It allows you to bend without breaking, to wait without despair, to act without forcing. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you realize that the sense of being on your way has been replaced by a feeling of arrival. Not arrival at a destination, but arrival in yourself. You feel rooted where you stand, even as life continues to move. You no longer need the future to validate the present. The present is enough. From this grounded place, gratitude turns into devotion. You move through your days with a quiet reverence, honoring the intelligence that has brought you this far. You trust that whatever unfolds next will do so with the same care, the same precision, the same love that has always guided you. You no longer rush the unfolding because you recognize yourself within it. And so the rhythm continues steady, deliberate, alive, each moment flowing into the next without strain, each breath reminding you that you are held, guided, and accompanied. You remain present, receptive, and willing. You do not need to hurry the miracle. You are living inside it now, moving in harmony with a timing that has never been against you and never will be.